Hello, my name is Débora Godoy Galdino. I'm a speech-language pathologist and I will present the work entitled Standardization of Nonlinear Analysis of Adult Voice by Phase-Space Reconstruction, PSR, authored by Lídia Cristina da Silva Teles, Débora Godoy Galdino, Mariana Ferreira Gonçalves, and Arlindo Montagnoli Neto. The voice assessment process is extensive because it's necessary to have tools that contemplate all the vocal dynamics, also taking into account the voice sign. The voice signals can be classified in three different types, depending on the complexity of the signal. Type 1 voice are those considered normal or with mild tones. Type 2 voice have strong or subharmonic modulation. And type 3 voice are irregular, aperiodic, and consequently very loud. The complexity of a voice signal directly affects the applicability of traditional methods of acoustic analysis of the voice. Since they presuppose sign periods and therefore are more suitable for type 1 voice signs, with little applicability to type signs 2 and 3. Nonlinear analysis emerged was a tool for diagnostic completion for all types of voice, including those with major change in the signal. Regarding nonlinear analysis, the literature suggests that regular lines with small spacing between lines and large amount of loops suggest greater periods of voice. The object of this work was to standardize the nonlinear analysis by the phase-space reconstruction in health voice of adult men and women. In addition to describing the disease protocol with curves, reregularities, and spacing for analysis of the phase-space reconstruction. 109 health voices of adults aged between 18 to 50 years old, with an average age of 27 years old participated in this study, being divided into two groups. The group of women is composed of 98 voices and the group of men is composed of 97 voices. All participants selected in this study had a type 1 voice. The vowel was analyzed for the analysis of the phase-space reconstruction. The first second of the signal was removed and then the part with greater stability following it was chosen. Signal select time for performing phase-space reconstruction was 0.25 seconds for women and 0.5 seconds for men. Analysis of reconstruction of phase space by the CIS protocol evaluated the number of curves, irregularity, and trajectory spacing. The degree of irregularity and spacing were described from 0 to 3, from the best to the worst classification. Being 0 is normal irregularity, 1 light, 2 moderate, and 3 severe. Moreover, the spacing was also measured in millimeters, being minimal spacing up until 5.9 millimeters, little being from the 6 to 8.9 millimeters, at the rate being from the 9 to 13.9 millimeters, and the large to greater than 40 millimeters. On this slide, you can find example of counts of trajectory curves with 4 or more curves on the first graphic, 3 curves on the second, 2 curves on the third, a curve on the fourth graph. And when it's impossible to count the trajectory curves, it's oriented to place it without defined curve. It's important to note that this graphic of the phase space reconstruction in which the trajectory is shown in a spiral shape. Such was the first graph shown on this slide. The number of trajectory turns counted, whatever, in the graphic that present a random format, such as the second graphic shown on the slide. The number of trajectory curves is counted. This slide shows the example of different degrees of irregularity of the stroke, with 0 degree being mild or sporadic, with 1 present a slight irregularity in the entire route, or moderate sporadically. Grade 2 was a moderate irregularity in the entire route, or severe in curved regions, and grade 3 has a severe irregularity of the routes. We have examples of the spacing classification. The first graph showing a minimal spacing, and it can be seen that this spacing is 2.5 millimeter thick. Grade 1 was a small spacing that varies from 6 to 8.9 millimeters. The grade 2 exams present a graphic with a spacing of 10 millimeters that fits into the average spacing, which change from 9 to 13.9 millimeters. And the example of 3 with a wide spacing where the spacing is greater than 40 millimeters. And as we can see in the graphic, the spacing was 70.5 millimeters. It's important to note that the spacer measure is performed by the most frequently splicing of the tracing, and the program used from this study offers this measuring when this part is selected. In relation to a statistical test, the Spearman correlation was used to relate the measurements of the phase space reconstruction with the auditory perceptual analysis and traditional acoustic parameters. In addition to the Mann-Whitney and t-test with a 5% significant level. Regarding the results in the number of trajectory curves by the phase space reconstruction, it was found that the majority had 4 or more curves in the trajectory. Regarding the Reregulate of Tracing, most women and men had a degree of irregularity in 1 followed by degree 0. There was no significant difference between the groups of men and women. Studies suggest that the irregularity of the traces is related to presence of noise in the voice signs. Regarding the spacing of the strokes, In this group of women, the majority was present in the grade 0 and grade 1. In men, the majority had grade 0, grade 1, and grade 2. It's not a word that the spacing was significantly greater in the group of men compared to the group of women, with p less than 0.05. The correlation between the construction of the phase space and perceptual analysis was performed by the Gervasi protocol and found in men a correlation between the general degree and spacing ruggedness. The results of the correlation between the measure of the phase space reconstruction with the perceptual measure by Gervasi indicated significant positive correlation between spacing with general degree, ruggedness, and instability of men, instability and space of women, and tension with Reregulate in women. According to Winkel's interpretation of the Spearman's coefficient, all these correlations were negligible. In the analysis of the correlation of the results to the phase space reconstruction with the acoustic measurements, in the female voices, there was a correlation both of the re-regulates and of the spacing with the jitter and shimmer. In male voices, there was a correlation of both irregularity and spacing with the fundamental frequency, jitter, and shimmer. The fact that the correlations between the phase space reconstruction with the auditory and acoustic analyses were weak and negligible can be justified due for the group's studies being composed of health voice, homogeneous in these compositions. This study's conclusion that for the standardization of the face space reconstruction in normal voice of adult men and women who speak in Brazilian Portuguese by the CIS protocol present 4 or more curves in the trajectory, irregularity in degree 0, normal or light, spacing of woman between degree 0 and 1, which is up to 8.9 millimeters, and man from 0 to 2, up to 13.9 millimeters. Reference. Thank you for your attention.